Our mission is to just continue expanding relationships with more and more suppliers, and to not just bring more suppliers in, but dig our existing relationship well deeper and deeper and deeper to continue to provide value to our partners, to the people that want to build stores on Amazon. It's important to us because we realize that's the only way at the end of the day that you win in business, is if you have customers that are happy because the service that you provide to them is valuable for what they're trying to do, right? I mean, that's the name of the game.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Joel Irway here with Experts Unleashed, and I am extremely excited about today's interview. I've got my good friend, longtime client. We have a long history together that I will talk about in just 1 second. But I've got a good friend and client of mine. His name is Jason ONeil, who runs Ecom Solutions. Now, Ecom Solutions is a fully done for you partner service for Amazon e-com sellers who are looking to outsource their sourcing, their wholesale sourcing, their product sourcing, and fulfillment and distribution services. And so I wanted to get Jason on because, number one, we have a long history together, and it's been fun to see the evolution of where he came from in the world of drop shipping to now the world of wholesale distribution. And number two, he has a brick and mortar distribution warehouse in Jacksonville, Florida, that is the only solution of its kind that fully manages and automates, distribution of your products if you have an Amazon e-com store. And so I wanted to talk to him about the growth of his company, talk about his services, talk about why it's so valuable for anybody who runs their own Amazon FBA or Amazon wholesaling store, because it's a no-brainer, and what he's built is truly, truly remarkable. So without further ado, Jason, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, Joel. That was an amazing introduction. You've basically sold it for me already. So there's nothing for me to really add to what you just said. But yeah, really appreciate it. And like you said, we do go way back. You were our initial pitch man on our very first ever working webinars. So I think that was even your entry into the world of expert business. So like, it's cool that we have this kinship, and I'm excited to work with you. And I know that you're an expert at what you do, and, we are looking to expand our message and get it out there into the world to let people know that what we have exists, because a lot of people don't even know that this exists for them, and they're going about doing their business. It's just way harder to do it on your own than it is to partner with us.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's talk about that, right? So let's talk about, what it is that Ecom Solution does, and why is it like a complete no-brainer for people to partner up with you, right? So you work with Amazon e-com sellers, whether they're wholesalers or FBA. Give us a quick 30 to 60 second, overview of what you do at your warehouse, and why you're like a no-brainer partner solution.
Yeah. So the challenge that every single seller has is setting up adequate supply, right? A lot of wholesalers don't want to do business with individual Amazon sellers. At this point, they have been just hit up by so many of them that it's hard. So a lot of sellers get stuck in this world of setting up relationships. So essentially what we are in the grand scheme of things is we're a business development arm of our selling partners, where we already have existing supply relationships established, and we bring their product file, we bring their catalog of products, what they have access to, into a wholesale marketplace, matching the products to what's actually on Amazon. So essentially that saves just tremendous amount of time of establishing relationships, and then being able to filter through and sort through all the products that they have access to. I can't tell you how many times someone says to me, I got a relationship established. They had a file of 7,000 SKUs and I couldn't find a single profitable product. So we do that for people. We match the products up, and then we have a technology that allows people to log into kind of like a moving marketplace, tracking the price movements of every single product in there. So you can see what the buy box is today, Whether it's profitable today, it just simplifies the process of sourcing products and getting them into Amazon, because we handle, you mentioned our facility. We have a 30,000 square foot facility that we operate out of, probably way too big for where we're at, but we're looking to grow into that facility. But we receive everything here. We package it up according to Amazon's guidelines, and we get it into people's stores, so they don't have to deal with any of the logistical relationship building, finding of the actual products, matching them to what's on Amazon, or figuring out how am I going to get this product into Amazon, even if I found it. So like with us, it's a one-stop shop to be able to get things into Amazon without the legwork that goes into establishing all of that, which is a lot. It's years. What I like, I just want to close it with this. It's 2.5 years worth of building. You know, every single day, the marketplace gets a little bit better because those products that were added 2 years ago are still there. We still have access to them. So if you imagine an expanding catalog, our mission, our vision is to be the world's largest marketplace of wholesale products for Amazon sellers. So that's our niche right there, for Amazon sellers specifically.
There's a couple things that I want to highlight, because the challenge with, I say this as, I'll throw this in air quotes, right? The challenge with your message is that the benefits that you provide are multi-level, right? It's not like, oh, I'm just a warehouse, so just, you know, we'll pack and ship your stuff, right? No, it's, we will pack and ship your stuff. We will give you instant access to over 40 suppliers who will approve you as a vendor or as a store. I don't know the proper terminology there, but they will give you instant access to sell their stuff. You have software that now automatically scrapes and analyzes which products are going to be the most profitable and what profit you can expect after all expenses are concluded, are included. And it's push button easy. You never have to touch your products again. So it's like, pick one of the 4 core benefits and figure out, okay, what's most appealing to me? Because I don't think anybody even offers any single one of those benefits. Like, maybe there are distribution warehouses out there, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely there's nobody who has software that integrates with 40 suppliers, and at the push of a button, you can say, yep, I want those products, bring them into the warehouse, put them in my store, automatically price them, automatically monitor the pricing compared to what the buy box is out there, reprice it for me automatically so I can sell it without having to lift a finger, sell it and fulfill it without having to lift a finger, right? It almost sounds too good to be true, which I think, you know, there's probably a lot of Amazon sellers out there who were burned by done-for-you e-com stores that just flooded the marketplace. And so when you hear what you do, I think there's a level of skepticism from the people who may or may not have invested in some of those quote-unquote done-for-you, you know, e-com stores that never really came to fruition. And so there's that.
Yeah, you know, regarding that, we actually get quite a few people that, you know, let us know that, hey, we have gone with one of those done for you platforms. We've actually, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with those service providers that are looking for, you know, they sell it, right? They sell that we can do this without the supply. Whereas we actually have the supply, and instead of us doing it for you, we just say, hey, you already want to grow your Amazon store. We've done all of the relationship building, and we continue to do the relationship building and bringing the products into the market. So you could just focus on finding what you want to sell, and then figuring out what your replenishment strategy is going to be, and figuring out how you want to price your products when they're in Amazon. But like, we handle all of that heavy lifting. Like, it's like, it takes a legitimate investment, and that's why there's probably not a lot of people out there. Like, it's easy to sell that, but it's hard to fulfill. Whereas we have built the machine that can actually fulfill on the promise. Like, I was looking earlier today, we've like 555,000 orders from the products in our catalog from the day that we initially launched, which was in 2020, in August of 2020. So there's been 555,000 FBA orders that have flowed through our warehouse. Year to date, we've already shipped out 63,000 units into Amazon. So there's a lot of people that are getting a tremendous benefit and value out of just having a marketplace, just like you said. When you log in immediately, when we become, service provider to client relationship, we call our clients partners because we think of ourselves as a true partner in helping them build their Amazon store to the capacity that they want to build it. We try to at least, there's certain elements that are like just crappy about wholesale when it comes to connecting into suppliers. And if you're doing it on your own, you're going to have the same exact challenges you would have doing it with us, but you have way more of them because we handle so much of the heavy lifting on establishing that relationship and then having the marketplace and the database already full of products that we built it with the long vision in mind, to where it's like 2 years ago, in reality, the product wasn't as good as it is today. Those first ever users, they got a significantly worse service or product than we can offer today because we didn't have the level of supply 2 years ago that we have today. We didn't have the level of marketplace products available to people. Like if you think about it, a year ago, there might have been 10,000 SKUs in there. Now we have 103,000. So if you think about like that opportunity from a year ago to today, it just compounds and it grows, and the people who start today actually have a better opportunity than the people who started 2 years ago, in all reality.
Well, let's dive into that a little bit more. I want to learn, talk to me about like how you discovered this, like how you got to this point. Like your background was in e-commerce. I think you initially started in drop shipping, right? So take us through that startup story and how we got to this point right here, where you now have an in-person warehouse in Jacksonville, Florida, with a staff that became a fulfillment arm for all of these Amazon sellers, now with over 100,000 SKUs. So how did we get here?
Just like everyone started at a kitchen table, learned about the idea of drop shipping back when you could do it on Amazon. So 2014, it was easy back then. You could like find a bicycle that Walmart was selling and you could just have it drop shipped from Walmart to someone buying it on Amazon. So that was just like in the beginning stages, like so easy. Then when you and I started working together, we started teaching that to people. And not too long after that, we started building our software. So that model over the years got harder and harder and harder. We had an office, but we didn't have like a big facility or anything. Like we never touched any products. We were just like an education company and software that helps support drop shippers. But over the years, I mean, it got harder until it was impossible to get away with drop shipping. So our, reality is we had well over $1 million of investment into that code, and faced with the decision of like, oh, this is going nowhere at this point. And the only real pivot that we could make, I think, at that time, if I wanted to maintain a level of, I don't want this to all be for nothing. So that's when we pivoted and we started developing these relationships. And we had the idea of, we tried to teach people how to set up relationships with suppliers, and everyone was having a hard time at it. Like it was universal across the board, and it's only gotten harder from that point forward. So we just figured that maybe there's this business to where we can set up the relationship and bring those relationships to people. And, it has an audience. There's people that are looking for that. So like we've just taken that and we've expanded upon it over the couple years. And we've just continued trying to make iterations and improvements to it day after day after day, a little bit out of necessity, because we were being phased out of a business model that no longer worked. And we realized as a seller on the platform, everyone has a universal challenge, every single one. So that's why we set out to solve that one universal challenge.
And what was the universal challenge?
Supply.
Yep, supply.
Getting access to supply. Like it's just not straightforward. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of time. And even if you're like a superstar, you're a rock star, you're going to push through a mountain. You're going to push a boulder up a mountain. We found not many people want to go through that level of difficulty just to start making some sales. So we figured that if we could shorten that gap, we could shorten that learning curve to where they could focus just on getting good at analyzing products. Yep. It just decreases the degree of difficulty 10 times, 100 times. I would literally say, honest to God, if someone wanted to go out there and develop their own network of supply chain relationships, there's a 1% success rate in people doing it and following through and actually making it through all of the challenges. 1 out of 100. You can do it. There's that 1% that does it, but there's a lot that goes into building that. There's a lot that goes into it.
Well, so go into that, right? So explain to me what it takes to actually develop a supplier partner. Is the terminology a supplier vendor relationship or a supplier store relationship? Like, what's the proper terminology there?
Yeah, so there are vendors. There are wholesale vendors. They're just nationwide or big distributors. Some of them might be small distributors, that have product lines in certain categories, right? Like every distributor kind of has their own unique category. Most of these companies, their business model isn't e-commerce. Their business model is brick and mortars. You might have a candy distributor that's servicing all of the mom and pop grocery stores or mom and pop gas stations, right? Like that's their business model, to where we come to them with a book of business of people that have their money they want to buy, and we just pool that resource together of all these buyers, and we bring all this buying power to these distributors, and these distributors in turn, get to open up into the world of e-commerce without having to deal with 100 different relationships. That's like most of why it's hard to establish relationships with suppliers, is they just don't want to manage hundreds of relationships. They'd rather manage one relationship and go do it that way, so that our suppliers are our business partners as much as our sellers. Our selling partners are our business partners. We're just kind of like coming in the middle and connecting the two.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
100%. I think like the biggest thing to really highlight is that suppliers don't need more stores, like especially in the e-com space, in the Amazon space. Is like, you want to know why it's so difficult to establish a relationship with a supplier? It's because they want to vet the crap out of you. Like they have more, thanks to the world of, education and training and everyone teaching people how to start an Amazon store. They have more than enough leads to distribute their products. Like they don't need more people. So the people who struggle to establish supplier relationships, which is like step one, like you got to increase your supply, and you got to set up an account with and break through and set up these accounts with some of these new suppliers, and they just don't want to. Like they don't need to. And so it becomes increasingly more difficult. You have to prove to them, well, how much are you going to be able to, sell? Like how much, what's your volume? And if you can't break in that way, like you're not going to succeed in this model. And so I think that's a huge thing that I want people to understand, is that instantaneously, just by partnering with you instantaneously have access to 40 of those suppliers without having to go through the vetting process. Like imagine what that would do for your capacity and for your ability to grow your own store.
Yeah. I had a thought that just kind of left me there for a second, but the degree of we went to ASD, which is a big trade show. Lots of sellers know about that trade show, and literally booth after booth after booth has a sign that says no Amazon sellers. Like, don't even approach us. It's there's well-known influencers out there that have great followings. They have a great product. They teach it. They do a really good job at teaching it. They're very, very successful on Amazon. So I couldn't imagine better teachers of the topic of building a wholesale business, like by going and doing your own supplier vetting. they had this like audience of people that are like gathered around them, and they're giving them like pep talks on walking through the trade show floor and how to get past that no Amazon sellers. Kind of like so we're having conversations with vendors, and like someone would walk up and immediately the person manning the booth, they'd say, or the person at the booth, they would just say, so where would we ship the products? Oh, it's going to a prep center. How does this prep center work? I'm not all that sure. So like they start snuffing you out with like good questions that are able to see like whether or not they're going to spend time talking to you, because, they're not trying to move a case of something, right? They're trying to move pallets of stuff, right? So the average kind of, just like you mentioned, they aren't hurting for more leads. Like they have enough. And generally, like what we get told, our people don't do this because our people, like, they really want supply. So when they come in with us, they actually like, they get value, and they buy and they buy and they buy and they keep buying. Whereas, the average wholesale distributor has a situation where someone comes in, they spend the time doing the credit references, they spend the time checking everything off, and that person never buys a damn thing. So that's kind of the rub right there. If you talk about like, what are you really up against? It's years of that. Yeah. And then being able to overcome that. If you're a heck of a salesperson and you can just bounce through everything, yeah, good. But how many people are just killers when it comes to being able to overcome objection after objection? Like, we don't want you as a seller. Oh yeah, but let me give you a reason why I'd be a good seller. We still don't want you as a seller. Oh yeah, let me give you a reason. Like that generally is where, like in theory, it's out there. Like there's this thing called wholesale that you can do on Amazon if you can get access to supply. Getting access to supply is insanely difficult, and they don't really share the difficulty of that, right? It's something that you're not going to sell against your thing. You're not going to be like, hey, let me tell you why not to buy my course or buy into my mastermind. I'm not going to give you that reason. I'm going to give you all the reasons to buy, not the reason not to buy. Right. So that's, we're trying to capture those people that have gone through that pain, and they've bought the course. They've done the work, and they may even have some wholesalers established, but they get how hard it is. And then when they come in with us, they can appreciate, wow, there's so much already here that I can leverage, that I don't need to manage all of these other aspects of building the wholesale business.
So that's obviously like one of the core benefits, right? Is step number one, just get as much access as you can. Get as much access to product as you possibly can. Boom, you guys solve it. Now, once you get access to product, right? So let's just, I'm going to assume the situation, like if I'm doing this all on my own, right? And I've got my own Amazon store, right? And I got access to product. Well, great, cool. Well, now I got to receive it. Then I got to pack it up, reship it, send it back out to Amazon, get it to FBA, and rock and roll. How long do people do that before they're like, no freaking way, like I'm done? Like, what does that look like? Yeah.
It usually starts out on your kitchen table where you get your first couple shipments. It's exciting. You got a vendor that will ship to you. Most people start doing it like through online resources. So they'll go to like target.com or walmart.com, and they'll have it shipped to their house, and they'll do their first several shipments into Amazon, but it becomes a job, to be prepping and packaging and doing that. And if at some point, like the option is to keep doing it or to try to outsource it to a prep center. And then you have to just find a prep center. Maybe you find a good one, maybe you don't, kind of luck of the draw. You're never going to know. You might get some like people that will give you some referrals to some good prep centers in your particular area, but maybe not. Right. So that's usually kind of like the next stage of challenge that people have, is like, even when you have some supply, getting it into Amazon has its own degree of difficulty. And, if you decide to go the route of like, I'm not going to use a prep center, I'm going to do my own warehouse, you need to do a lot of volume to make up for the added cost of doing the business. And the average wholesale seller, they're not, I would recommend don't get a warehouse until you're doing a couple $100,000 a month regularly in selling, because you're going to need that cash flow in order to afford the added costs that goes into staffing and doing that. A lot of people will use a prep center to do it, but prep centers, they cut into your margins, and that's okay. That's going to be where your production costs are going to be anyways in the world of selling on Amazon. Like that's the battleground right there, is that prep, getting it into Amazon.
That's the next step, which is getting your stuff and shipping it into Amazon. And, you've only got a certain window before you just get tired of it, or maybe you hire your family or friends, and like, it just starts to kind of grow from there. But eventually you're like, oh man, like now it's starting to become a real system, a real business, or like, I'm just kind of tired of this. And, it's like you start to burn out. All right. So then it becomes, from that point, now it becomes, accurately and effectively, like, you've got access to product, you got access to supply, you can get it to Amazon, you set up your processes for that. But now it becomes like, okay, well, I got to worry about profit margins. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, how good are you at looking at opportunities, figuring out the pricing, figuring out how much margin you've got and your costs associated with it, and setting up a legitimate business model. Like that takes a lot of time when you're doing that manually. And I think this is one of the most like intellectually property, the most valuable piece of IP that you've got is you've built, like, now integrated with everything else that we've already talked about inside of your software. You're connected to all these suppliers, and you're also connected to the marketplace on Amazon. So you're able to speak to it and connect all these data points and analyze, okay, here's the inventory list or here's the product list of X supplier. Here's what it looks like. Here are the opportunities on Amazon and what the profit margins are, including all the costs of purchasing, shipping into our warehouse and reshipping back out to Amazon and selling it. Here's what you could potentially make. Like, if you were to do that manually, what does that look like, and how much time, effort, and energy does that require to do that effectively?
Multiple roles. To manage everything on your own, you're generally going to want to have someone who's got the relationship with the vendors. You're going to need people who can educatedly buy, to be able to like take those vendor files and do something with them, to be able to find the products. So like that might be another job for someone on the team. And then, you would have a person doing prep, if you're going to handle everything on your own, where, sure, you might make a little added margin, but all of those costs eat away at that margin. Whereas like you have to do business on volume to offset those. And I think that that's probably where a lot of people struggle, is getting past like a certain range, to where it's like it's getting out of just being a side hustle into being like something that's producing real revenue. And it's generally going to be because the difficulty of managing all of the moving pieces to it, it becomes a real business as opposed to a side hustle for someone, so that all of those are challenges in their own right, but they compound the difficulty, for the average person. So that's what we try to solve for, to where the margin is actually like much closer to what your real margin is. You don't have a lot of added expenses with running the business. Like there's two real expenses beyond us, and that's going to be what your shipping into Amazon is, and then what your storage costs are at Amazon. If you do a good job with your product selection, you can keep them both pretty reasonable, to where it doesn't take too much of that margin. And then you are left with what's left, so as opposed to here's your margin minus labor, minus all these software costs, minus, rent, minus packaging materials, minus electricity, minus internet, minus phone, all these things that you have to absorb. I think we're like a really good alternative for people that want to make a lot of sales on Amazon without having the complexity of operation, the operational complexity that goes into managing. We try to solve as much of that as we humanly possibly can, so someone can just focus more on, managing their inventory and less on how am I going to pay for my staff.
So let me ask you this, Jason. How long does it take for somebody to get onboarded with ecom solutions and start seeing like results? And it might not be like, oh, you make your first sale, but like results happen and value happens in so many different areas with partnering with you. It's like, okay, value, immediate value number one, getting access to 40 suppliers. Immediate value number two is seeing which one of those are actually going to be profitable after all my hard costs.
Yeah.
Right. So what do people say? Like, how, explain to me, like, or maybe give me like an example of like a client.
You want me to go through our onboarding process?
Well, I guess so. Like, I don't think we need to go through the total onboarding process, but what I'm trying to get out is like, when do people start to see like immediate value when they sign up? It's like, holy cow, like I didn't realize I had access to all these products.
Yeah.
Like, what does it feel like to somebody who is coming from doing it all themselves, beating their head against the wall and getting rejected from supplier after supplier to supplier to then finally connecting with you? It's like,
I would like to believe that they get that moment of value the minute that they log into our marketplace and they see the products. Maybe they don't believe it yet. They're kind of brand new. We have an onboarding call where it's like with our team, our in-house team that are here at the facility, where we walk them through everything. So I hope they get value out of that as well, to see that there's real people behind the operation, that there's, there's people working on their behalf. I hope that that's valuable. I think to some people that is valuable. And then you can realistically actually have the cash register ringing within a few weeks. I mean, if a lot of people will get started immediately and they place their first purchase order day one.
Yeah.
So you can get an order in if you find value in the fact that you didn't have to find all the supply, and you can, like, today, if you got registered with us, you could start processing orders. And then within a few weeks, those products will start filtering into Amazon and you might start making sales, and if you stay consistent with that, every time you log in, you can do a 1 product a day challenge. We have a challenge with our people right now, because our best people, they have very simple strategies. The people that do the very best, and they just stay consistent with doing new product acquisition every single day. Just add a little bit more, add a little bit more, add a little bit more. And over time, that starts compounding and it starts stacking on top of it. So, we hope that people get value the moment that they log into the platform and they see the abundance of opportunities. Abundance. A lot of people ask, like, what about saturation? It's like, man, we got millions of dollars worth of inventory in our system right now. And we haven't had a single person that's come in and just, like, because Amazon makes it where even if you had, let's say, 50 million bucks that you came in, Joel, and you said, I'm going to just buy everything in the catalog, right? Like, Amazon doesn't even give you the storage space to be able to do it, So you got to kind of earn that storage space with them. So, like, the only way to do it is just stay consistent with that daily routine of doing the one thing that's going to make your cash register ring. And we like to think that our marketplace is by far the easiest way for someone to be able to do that. And you get that value immediately, like minute one, the moment that your account's set up.
I want to, in your opinion, what's the single biggest, like, question that holds somebody back from, like, actually jumping in and taking full advantage?
The biggest question that holds someone back, I guess it always seems to come down to money, right? Like, it always seems to come down to whether or not someone gets value out of their time. I think of, what is your time truly worth? would you get the equivalent value of the work that's already been done on your behalf by just joining us, or would you prefer to do it all on your own and maybe make a little bit higher margin, but the degree of difficulty really changes? I guess maybe, do people believe us? Do they think it's really possible? Like, is this real? I mean,
Too
I
good to be
like to say
true.
this. Is there people that buy stuff on Amazon? Yes. Okay. Is there such thing as wholesale? Yes. And do we actually have products in our catalog that you can buy? And the
Yeah.
answer is yes. And I don't know if people believe it or something. Like, this is just too good to be true.
Yeah. Well, I think that the people who are tainted with all the promises of like, oh, done for you Amazon stores, and they're dropping 30, 40, 50K and receiving nothing in return. It's like, well, no, listen, here we are. Here's our facility. You want to see our facility? Come down to Jacksonville, Florida. Like, here it is. You want to meet the people who are going to be handling your products? Here they are. If you want to see exactly what it looks like when we place an order and receive it in, here's what happens, right? So it gets me so excited because I know there's so many people that love e-commerce. Like, they've started their own store. Like, I did drop shipping. When you and I worked together in the past, I did drop shipping.
Yep.
My mom has her own Etsy shop, so she's in e-commerce, right? She does antique stuff. Like, people get it. These people, entrepreneurs get it. They love e-commerce. It's a massive, massive industry. And you are truly the only person. That's why I'm so passionate about it. You're truly the only person who's a one-stop shop for sellers to get access to product, to receive whatever they want, get it all fulfilled and shipped on their behalf, and they never have to touch it, right? They can figure out what their profit margins before they ever place an order. There's no guessing, and they never have to touch the product. Like, I don't know. I mean, there aren't many offers out there that get me that excited, but like, when I saw what your software did, and I saw your warehouse, and like, it's an offer that you should be charging 5 times more, which I've told you to raise your prices, but you should be charging a lot more than what you do. But I think people really have to see it to believe it. And I'm excited to help you spread that message. I'm excited to see you grow. It's been fun. I mean, I don't get this excited about offers that often. And so I'm a huge believer in it.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said it was easy. It's been extremely challenging for us, and every day still has its own challenge. That because we know Amazon itself, they throw their own challenges at you as a store owner. So if you imagine, we deal with those issues on scale. Like, where every single issue that you have with Amazon, I mean, we have that with you, alongside of you, and we're here trying to help you work through those issues and solve them so you can continue moving forward, So I'm proud of what we've built. It's been really hard, and to the relationships are really, like, if you think of, you just can't easily form that, right? Like, even if other people pop up over the coming years, this becomes wildly awesome. And, we have tons of people that are loving it. If obviously at some point, maybe someone was going to like build something else, but you just can't easily replicate relationships, like that right there is kind of like the moat that gets built around the business. And we just want to, our mission is to just continue expanding relationships with more and more suppliers, and to not just bring more suppliers in, but dig our existing relationship well deeper and deeper and deeper, to continue to provide value to our partners, to the people that want to build stores on Amazon. So that's our flywheel right there. It's all about relationships. And it's not just relationships with our vendors, it's relationships with our partners. We want to have a good working relationship with you. I would rather have less clients that I have great relationships with than more clients that I have mediocre or poor relationships with. We like to service our clients and for them to be happy with the level of service that we provide. It's important to us because we realize that's the only way at the end of the day that you win in business is if you have customers that are happy because the service that you provide to them is valuable for what they're trying to do, right? I mean, that's the name of the game.
Well, dude, I've enjoyed this conversation. I love learning about e-commerce because I have experience in it, and I love seeing the game evolve. Where can people go check out your stuff? So, what's the link for them to go connect with you, learn more about it?
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram. It's at real Jason ONeil. So you
Okay.
can just connect with me on Instagram if you want, and you just follow me there. I do some posting. You get to see some kind of like behind the scenes stuff. I like posting in the warehouse, showing the stuff that's going on. People tend to like that stuff too. So, yeah, follow me over on Instagram, connect with me, send me a DM. Let me know that you listen to this episode. That'd be pretty cool.
And what's the website to Ecom Solutions?
Ecomsolutions.io.
Awesome. Dude, it's great, man. It's always great connecting with you, and love watching you grow. And if anyone's watching this and you have an e-com store and you struggle with any of the problems we outlined, reach out to Jason, talk to him about his services and his team, and I promise you won't be disappointed. Dude, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And for everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.